You don't have to wind up yourself. Hello, everyone. Today we are talking about when you make a plan, but you are not implementing it. Uh, Before we begin, hi everyone. My name is Rashni. I am a almost 50-year-old Black and West Indian mother of a son of special needs. I am a content creator. I am a certified life coach and I am a Black woman healing. I create humor filled healing spaces so that other Black women can heal too. You are welcome. All right, two things. I am live right now on YouTube, on Facebook, and on LinkedIn. If you are watching, let me know where you are watching from, location wise on the planet, and drop a pineapple emoji in the chat when you do it. Why? Because I like pineapples, they make me happy. Second thing is, if I seem like I am out of breath or I am winded, it is not my fault. Between Young Brother, The Greatest Bend Over, and Kes Kokoti, those two songs have me in chokehold, and I was not successful in trying to stop dancing to them and hitting that smooth whine and letting my waist work. Okay. So I'm a little out of breath and I was actually quite sweaty before I jumped on this. Okay. It's not my fault. I am from the Virgin Islands and the music hits my lumbosacral and I cannot not dance. Okay. So if you notice that I sound like I'm a little out of breath, it's because the waist was on fire just 5 minutes ago. Okay. Hello, Abstract Voice Podcast. Thanks for joining me. Okay. So today's video is inspired by coaching clients. I have a coaching membership for Black and West Indian women on a healing journey. If you want to find out more about it, thepineapplecrowns.com. The link is on the screen as well as at the top of the information box. We have a monthly coaching call. And also, I did a virtual planning retreat for Black and West Indian women. And we also have a monthly accountability call. Both of those calls happened this past Sunday. Okay. If you're interested, links are where the links are. On the accountability call, I believe, yes, I was touching base with some of the women. Some have done it before with me, the planning retreat and accountability calls. Others are new to the whole thing. And a couple of the women on our call mentioned that they had done the planning portion of the planning retreat tasks. Yes, because that's what a planning retreat is for in my mind, to help you come up with a plan for your year. Because my planning retreat is called Create Your Year. So create your 2025, right? And two of the women specifically confessed to me that they had indeed gotten very far and or finished the planning portion of the planning retreat, but they had not put it on their calendar, which is one of the steps, one of the final steps. And I believe in the planning retreat, I say that putting it on your calendar or in your task list is actually the most important step. And a couple women were honest enough to tell me they had not done that, right? So, as I do, I dug deeper and asked some questions. And the ladies shared with me their specific reasons why they hadn't put it on the calendar yet, right? Um, and wasn't in that mindset and hadn't done it. So I'm putting lotion on my hand. So that is the inspiration for today's video. I wanted to talk about the reality, because this is my season of reality checks at the beginning of the year. The reality that it is very possible that you can create a beautiful plan, okay, and not do it, and why that might be, and then potentially brainstorm with you ways to heal from that, to help you move beyond creating a plan and not implementing it. Okay. The things I'm coming up with are brainstormed out of the ether. They are not necessarily the things that the lady shared with me. I just took that as inspiration and went forward. Okay. So if you are a person who finds yourself creating plans and coming up with all these grand schemes, but never implementing them, this might be the video for you. Okay. Let's talk about it. So, the first thing I wrote down, if you have made a plan in any way, whether it's a vision board, whether it's New Year's resolutions, whether it's whatever your plan is or was in the past, and you did not do it, the first thing I want to suggest to you is you might be in what is called functional freeze or dorsal vagal collapse. Okay, Rashni, you come in strong. I need to get this out of the way because understanding that you are a spirit, you have a soul, and you live in a body, and that therefore you are a holistic and integrated being is the perfect place to start when releasing yourself from the feeling of failure, the perceived failure of not implementing your plan. Okay. So, what is functional freeze and what is dorsal vagal collapse? When a physical body is overwhelmed, yeah, the nervous system can short circuit and stop functioning. Yes. Think of like if you drove your car and you never did any maintenance and the car's engine, the oil went out and it was overwhelmed because you just drove it with no oil. You didn't check the tires. You didn't put water in, like nothing. You did no maintenance and you just did a cross country road trip. It is very possible that your car will give up the ghost and be like, this is too much. Okay. In the same way, the human body does that. I think we all know it, but we seem to skip over it as a simple explanation for why our plans are not being executed. So I want to offer to you that if you have made a plan or are making plans and find yourself never executing plans or not executing a plan, the first thing might be a physical restraint, which is you might be in dorsal vagal collapse. What is dorsal vagal collapse? Your nervous system has been overwhelmed and it is shut off. What does that look like? It looks like laying in bed, procrastinating, doom scrolling, telling yourself, I know I should be doing this, but why am I not doing this? Depending on the stories that you've been told in the past from other people that, raised you, tried their best. What's wrong with you? You're lazy. Get up. You know better. You know better. You should do all the things you've already known. What's wrong with you? What all of that, okay? And yet nothing is happening. It could be a physiological off switch has been thrown in your body. Yeah. And just knowing that there is a physiological component to your overwhelmed state can free you. Now, I'm not going to give you 800, I'm not going to go deep into this, but I will say this. If you feel like you might just be in functional freeze and dorsal vagal collapse, etc., the answer to that is one, acknowledge it. Two, release yourself from the messaging of failure because that is a valid response to an overwhelmed nervous system. And three, you can get yourself out of that freeze state by doing somatic release exercises. What does that mean, Rashni? Google it. Okay. Everyone is different. Basically, somatic means in the body, in the physical form, and you get yourself out of that functional free state by doing things that release you from a somatic place. That's the shortcut, okay? Google it. There are lots of different somatic release techniques. All of them don't work for everyone, but one or two are going to work for you. If you find yourself in that free state, that could be why you're not executing your plan, boo boo. Give yourself grace, become curious, ask yourself what's next. And what's next when you're in that state is do something to move your body, to activate your body, and get yourself out of that free state. Okay. So the next thing I wrote down is, and this was actually said to me, they created a plan, but they were afraid to put it on their calendar. And I was like, because that's the most important part, right? I don't make a planning retreat so that people can give me money and come up with a fancy cute plan and then put it down. That's not my intention. I'm not saying that people won't do that. I'm saying that I actually want action to happen and for what is planned out and envisioned to come to pass in the person's life, right? That's my intention behind offering something like the planning retreat. So when somebody tells me that they don't want to put it on their calendar, I have to ask myself, why is that? So I wrote down some ideas. And if you resonate with them, then listen up because we're going to sit here and we're going to talk about brainstorming why this might be. So I wrote down um, maybe you are afraid to put your plan on a calendar because you struggle with moving from abstract plans to concrete actions and time commitments. Now, there could be a lot of reasons why that is the case. Also valid, right? Um, if you notice in your life that you have a pattern of not being able to go from high level concepts and hopes and dreams to actionable steps to make a thing happen, that could be a valid skill that you need to learn. If I'm being honest, people who have that way of thinking also tend toward depression and things like that. I was one of those people. That's why I can say that. And there are studies that show that people who have global thinking styles and cannot land the plane and come up with the actionable, granular steps to actually execute a plan tend toward depression. Because imagine how depressing and hopeless it feels when you just want to do the thing and you can never get to the do the thing part. So you have this desire, but you don't know how to come up with the steps. Not knowing how to come up with the steps is a valid way of existing, but it is also a skill that can be learned. How do I know that? Because I have learned that skill and I am continuing to learn that skill. The answer to that is to start asking questions, become more curious. Whenever you come up with I want to do some high level thing, and I'm afraid to put it on the calendar because I'm struggling with moving it from an abstract to an actual, ask yourself why you're struggling with it. Ask yourself, do you know what the steps are? Do you actually know how to do the thing that you want to do? If you don't know how to do it, ask yourself who knows how to do it, and then seek them out, whether it's content, whether it's somebody in your real life, whether it's somebody who you pay to give you the shortcut, and avail yourself to the counsel and wisdom of the person who already knows how to do the thing, because they can probably tell you the steps. You can even use AI. There are AI services, regular chat GPT, Claude, and even actual services that will help you brainstorm granular steps. I will put a link to them in the information box when I in the comments when I'm done with this video. I think one of them is called Goblin. But if you struggle with coming up with the steps, instead of beating yourself up and just not doing the plan, I would suggest acknowledging I struggle with concrete action plans and tasks, and I can learn how to do that. Right? So that's just another thing that I want you to understand or consider. The next thing is you might be afraid to implement it because putting it on your calendar makes the plan feel real and irreversible. And you struggle with things that feel irreversible because potentially you don't understand that if you make a choice, it is not set in stone. Now, a lot of people get that honest. Okay, you may have grown up in a family of origin where you learned how to be hyper vigilant about your choices because your feet were held to the fire. And if that is the case, notice that without judgment. Acknowledge, I learned this very rigid and perfectionistic way of thinking from unhealthy people who didn't bear the fruit that I wanted. And then tell yourself, and that is not the case right now in my reality. Now, me saying that and actually executing it might be hard because, once again, let's go back to the nervous system. Your nervous system may be programmed to think that you are going to be punished if you make a wrong choice. Yeah. And real talk, it doesn't even have to be family of origin, it might just be lived experience of Black women in westernized society. And I'm gonna let you think about that, okay? Because um, Black excellence has us in a chokehold. We have to be the best at this. We are the person who is representing the entire race of humans in a space, and we can't fail the entire race of humans. That's a lot of pressure, and that's more pressure than a person is designed to um, carry. And it would make sense that honestly, all of us are probably in some sense of some space of functional freeze in that place because eventually the human body is going to reject that messaging, even if you are not consciously aware of it. So, if you are struggling with implementing a plan because you think if I make this choice, I can't make a different choice, I'm going to be the first person to just gently tell you that is actually not true. Okay. I'm going to give the example that I told a family member recently. I had a family member come over to my house and share with me that everything in their life was going really well right now. However, they couldn't enjoy it because they were waiting for the ball to drop. And I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, I can't enjoy it because it's like it's too good right now. And I said to them, when you go to a restaurant and you order a meal, right? Well, they also said, and also, what if I made the wrong choice and it's going to go bad, right? I said, if you go to a restaurant and you order a meal and they bring out the meal and it's the most amazing thing you've ever eaten in your life. It's so good. Do you enjoy it? And they were like, yeah. I was like, exactly. I said, now if you go to a restaurant and they bring out a meal and it's okay, do you enjoy it? Yes, I enjoy the parts that are good and I don't enjoy the parts that are bad, but it's okay. Exactly. But if you go to a restaurant and you bring out a meal and it's disgusting, okay, and there's something on it that you don't like, or it's cold, or whatever, do you enjoy it? And that person said to me, no, I don't enjoy it necessarily. I either ask them to fix it, or I make a note not to come back to that restaurant, or I just realize, okay, it is what it is. Next time I'll order something different. And I said, exactly. So in life, you can't hold yourself to a standard that's beyond what I just described. When you make choices, you are never set in stone. I don't care. And anybody who tells you that you are set in stone at this point in my life, breathing on 50's neck, is an unhealthy person. They are living from a rigid thought process and they want you to think that you are in that too. But as long as you are alive, every morning when you wake up, the Bible says mercies are new every morning. Okay. I get a different chance to make a different choice. So no, nothing you put on a calendar is 100% set in stone. All it is an arrow to point you in the direction that you are trying in this moment. And if you make a choice, put it on the calendar or put it in your task list, and it's not a good fit when you start executing it, just like if your meal at the restaurant doesn't taste super great, you can change it. You can realize, yeah, I don't like this. I'm not doing this anymore, right? You can make a different choice. You can make adjustments. Now, the other thing I want you to think about is part of the reason why you might not be able to implement your plan is you are uncomfortable with what you feel are time constraints. Um, and once again, that's a skill that you have to learn. In everything, there is a season. Okay. And so you may not be able to execute on the hopes that you have based off of the plan that you've created because you aren't aware that there are time constraints. Time constraints are an actual thing. Um, in the time constraints are also trade offs. And to be able to execute on one thing, you have to be willing to look at what is not going to get to happen in the time frame because you only have 24 hours in a day. Some of those are sleeping, some of those are doing basic tasks like eating, using the restroom, showering, etc. And only a small amount of those hours are realistically going to move you toward the goals and plans that you have. If you prefer to live in a fairy tale, in a dream world that is not real, and the idea of actually only having 2 hours a day to work on something makes your nervous system activate and freaks you out, that is probably why you are afraid to execute your plan. It's also why you're having difficulty sitting down and deciding if you're going to become a baker today or if you're going to go work on your in the gym or if you're going to become a songwriter or if you're going to, move across the country because there are time trade-offs. So the solution for that is to Realize that realistic plans take into account time trade offs, time constraints. Those things exist. Nothing is going to happen in real life if you are unwilling to operate in reality. And that reality includes having to say yes and no to certain things. Having to realize that you will not get to everything, at least not in this time. You have to work on one thing at a time, and that is just reality. So, in a way, it's almost like you're operating in a fairy tale, and it's much more comfortable to live in a story that is not accomplishable than to realize that you can't work on all your things right now. Okay. Just consider that. The next thing I wrote down is you're scared of creating concrete deadlines because of your performance anxiety. This kind of goes to the perfectionism thing and the getting it honest from a past story that you were told in some space, especially just Black women, like I said, that you have to have everything perfect and you have to perform. If you've been operating from a performance vantage point for your entire life, which many Black women have been, um, it's going to be really hard to, I shouldn't say that. Should I? Let me think. No, it's true. It's going to be challenging to deprogram yourself from performing. Yeah. If I go to the circus and I have an animal that has been trained to jump through hoops and do a twirl, when it sees a group of four people or more, the minute four people walks into that animal's space, even if it's no longer in the circus, it's probably going to jump through hoops and do a twirl. That's you. You have been trained to perform, and validly acknowledging that is the first step, right? And so if you are afraid to put down deadlines because your body and your mind are rejecting this performance thing, you're doing it, but you don't want to do it no more. I am tired, okay? You're tired. Then you have to understand that what you are experiencing is performance anxiety, and you have to learn to categorize it as that, right? And so you're experiencing performance anxiety. And instead of beating yourself up, choose to say, oh, I'm experiencing performance anxiety because I am detoxing from this messaging that I have to jump through hoops. Yes, LaShawn, we are at the circus already. I am detoxing from the messaging that I have to jump through hoops every single time somebody comes in my purview, and I have to pretend to be this perfect Black woman, this perfect whoever, right? Whatever role you've been told got to be perfect, and I got to, clap 3 times and do a cartwheel. You're unlearning that, and that might be part of why you're not feeling comfortable about implementing your plan. And just changing the story that you're telling yourself can free you. You live in the story that you tell yourself. And if you're telling yourself a story that's not anchored in reality, then you get to live in la la land with that story and never actually see accomplishable goals happen in your life here on earth in real life. Okay. You're stuck in your brain, imagining on a fairy tale that never occurs. But if you take yourself out of la la land, which is my choice, my personal choice. Okay. I lived in La La Land for many years. That was my coping mechanism of choice, to dissociate entirely. Um, and I have been, especially now, um, in this political climate, choosing reality with wild abandon. Okay. It's right there. I see it. There's no more dissociating. When you choose that, you can realize, oh, this is performance anxiety. And then you can do some things to help yourself detox and calm your nervous system down from performance anxiety. Okay. Next thing is, um, I think I said this already, which is exposing potential conflicts with other commitments. Part of the reason why you might not be doing your plan is your plan is not accomplishable in reality, right? You have stocked your plan so full, and you have never what's the word? You don't have enough experience actually doing the granular task in real life. You spent your entire life living in a dream world. And in a dream world, anything can happen. Okay. In an AI world or in a simulation or a um animated world, I can have wings and horns. I could be a dragon, okay? And that's fun and everything, but that doesn't actually work here. No matter how much I want, ain't no wings coming out my back because here on earth, that's not reality. You have spent so much time living in la la land in your head that you don't even know what an accomplishable, granular, task based day could look like. I know that's a lot. That's a lot to chew on. I actually had to learn that lesson. Okay. I spent many years lamenting the fact that things weren't happening and having to realize that I struggled with the skill that can be learned of actually creating a accomplishable day so that I wasn't constantly beating myself up about the potential conflicts with other commitments because I knew what is accomplishable in a 3-hour time period, right? If you make a goal that actually takes 3 months and you think it's going to take you 3 days, then of course you're going to beat yourself up and think you failed. But the failure is not in your capacity to execute the thing. The failure, quote unquote, or skill that can be learned is in your capacity to plan it in a more realistic way. And listen, that's a word for somebody. I threw it, catch it. Somebody catch it, okay? Because that's going to free somebody else up. What you think takes a year to do actually takes 5 years and can be happening 5 years from now if you don't spend your entire life beating yourself up thinking that you failed this year. What you did is lay the groundwork for the thing that is realistically accomplishable in 5 years. And you need to stop stopping and keep going. Okay. Let's see. The next thing is I wrote down you're not doing your plan because it is removing your safety net of keeping things in the hypothetical. So, one of the things I've noticed over time is you can get a dopamine hit from perceiving that you are acting because you are planning, processing, and always coming up with a plan, always coming up with a new thing. Listen, you got a new logo, you working on your website. Now you going to do, girl, I don't know, drop shipping. Then you going to become a Zumba instructor. Next thing I know, you about to sell crochet on Etsy. And then here's the thing. You can get the dopamine from that plan. And the additional dopamine, you ready for this? I'm going to really call people out because this is how I used to be. And I have to actively teach myself not to do this right now. You get more dopamine from telling people that you're planning the thing. So now everybody's patting you on the back because you're explaining to them how you go make crochet stuff on Etsy and how you taking a crochet class and how you're looking for crochet classes and how you're researching what's the best yarn and you decided you want pink hooks instead of silver hooks. So now you're looking for pink hooks. Oh my God, they make yellow hooks. Let me find some yellow hook. Girl, you ain't crocheted a thing, ain't sold nothing. And you spend 2 years telling people about this imaginary crochet business. It's an imagination. Okay. And it removes the safety net. You could live a whole life doing that. Bernita, you said yes, indeed. Facts I'm preaching. I know I'm preaching good because I'm describing what I used to do and I'm trying to help people. Jay said, get out your business. I'm all up in your business, Jay. Okay. Because I want people to be free. Let me tell you something. I told you January is reality check. Okay. The reality of the whole thing is you prefer to live in a hypothetical fairy tale la la land because you are afraid of actually implementing plans in real life. And here's the thing, the fear is valid, but the fear can be overcome and you can continue to heal through the fear while the fear is still there if you will first acknowledge the fact that what you are creating is in your mind. You're scared of here. You're scared of here. Hair is too frightful. Hair is too scary. So you prefer to tell people that you're working on the thing and tweak that logo and that website until Christ come back. Okay? I think I've said it in the past before, and I had a coaching client tell me that I called her out on this when I said it aloud. You don't need another degree. Black women love to tell people how many degrees they got, okay? And I'm not saying that getting degrees is a bad thing. I got the degree, okay? I got them. We all were told that that is the goal. Stack these things up like Thanos, okay? And then when you look around at the life that you actually created, you ain't created nothing because you so busy going back to the starting block because you're more comfortable in that hypothetical. One day I would, one day I could. I feel good about the fact that I am equipped to do it. Have I done it? No. But am I equipped to do it? Yes. And I'm even more equipped. Real talk, part of what happens when I have my planning retreat and my coaching is I can attract that type of woman because I was that type of woman. But what happens when they come and work with me is I'm like, hey, I'm not in here trying to just sell you something so that you could just have another stone in your thing like Thanos. That's not the point. The point is to snap you into reality and have you actually do something. And often I find that that's where the coaching comes in, right? Bringing people out of their created dissociative fairy tale of who they are and who other people are, and actually landing their plane in reality. And there's a reason why people check out into the spaces. There's valid reasons. And that's why I'm trying to share in this way and actually treat these things as holy topics, as sacred topics that I want people to think about because you might be beating yourself up and just perpetuating a problem that has a solution that you have not considered because you aren't able to consider it yet because your nervous system won't allow you to look at the reality of where you are. And I want to tell you that I have the shortcut. I'm not going to get you there immediately, but I'm going to at least get your pinky toe to consider that you could do something different. Okay. The other reason why you might be afraid of, or not afraid, but you might have a plan that you have crafted. It's pretty. Okay. It's color coordinated. Okay. You got stickers on it. It's cute, right? And you can show it to everybody, but you're not actually implementing this plan is because it makes your progress or your lack of progress measurable and visible and right in your face. If you say, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week, and you don't go to the gym 3 times a week, now what you perceive as failure is right in your face. And you can't handle that. Let me say something. I want to take a dive out and a dive back in. A lot of these things have to do with learning that you can handle perceived failure. The answer that a lot of us are looking for is internal work, meaning if you feel like you quote unquote failed, can you handle that? Can you handle that? Okay. I'm going to give you another analogy and it's bopping around in my head and I'm going to get it out. I went to my niece's play last night. They did a middle school production of Beauty and the Beast. Okay, you got it? So, in going to a middle school production of Beauty and the Beast, I had middle school production of Beauty and the Beast expectations. Yeah, I didn't think I was going to Broadway. This is not a performing arts school. This is just a regular middle school. So I had that in my mind. When I went in there, I was on the front row. And when I went in, I did, however, being a lover of theater and musicals and the like, say to myself and to God in my head, Lord, please give me at least a few kids that are taking this for real seriously. And they swear to God, they about to go to Broadway. Give me a few over the top kids who aren't trying to be cool, right? Who are really going all the way out. And he did. Okay? That's what I'm going to say. Those kids did exist. However, there were kids that were middle schoolers, you know, everything in between happened. There were kids that were up there and, they were doing what you expect middle schoolers to be doing, which is trying to be cool or not wanting to be perceived or this, that, and the other. Okay. And there were these little inklings of times where mistakes were happening, cues, because it was their first night. They have two more today, right? Cues were being missed, things were being missed, right? It's the first time. If you know anything about performing arts, which I grew up in, that happens, and that really typically happens in the first show. Yeah. Here's the thing: it's not about whether the performing the actor did it right. That's great. I love that for them if they did. But one of the things I picked up yesterday while watching this play was it was how they recovered if they had a little oopsie. The recovery was where the progress was. There were actors on that stage who not only did their character exceptionally, I mean, amazing. Okay. The little girl that did the talking candlestick, I forgot the name now, is drawing a blank. Amazing. Okay. And lots of other ones. If and when she had a little flub up, her recovery was impeccable. There were people up there, though, who, and they're middle schoolers, so this is a very loosey-goosey analogy, but you'll get the point. Their recovery was not so good. They would freeze. They would freak out. There were even times where the mics were hot and they would come straight out of character and say they messed up. Let me tell you something. Part of the reason why you aren't implementing your plan is because you don't trust your ability to recover. I'm gonna bust you out, okay? I'm banging on the gates right now of your prison. You don't trust you to recover when you perceive that you have not made progress and when you perceive that you failed. But let me tell you something. If you say, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week, and you try that for a month and you never go to the gym, and it's the end of January, you have a choice, right? It's always a choice. You can spend the rest of 2025 hiding from some perceived person coming to judge you about the fact that you said you were going to go and you didn't go because it's on your calendar and you looking at it every single day and you ignoring it. You could do that. That's a choice. And then just blow out your nervous system even more. Or let me offer this to you. Okay. Let me offer this to you. Or at the end of January, you can look and say, I wanted to go 3 times a week. I'm not going though. Do I still want to go 3 times a week? Is that a good number? Do I want to do the gym or do I need to change it to something else? Why am I not going to the gym? Am I just saying the gym because everybody maybe it's Zumba. Maybe I need to change it to walks. Maybe 3 times a week doesn't work. Maybe I should try 1 time a week in February. Maybe I'm choosing the wrong gym. What, like, you start asking questions about how do I get this goal to fit me? Okay. So a person who beats themselves up because they feel like their progress and their measurable, visible, perceived failures are on blast for everyone to see, yeah, is defaulting to operating in shame and guilt and all of these things, which are honestly indicative of what I told you guys at the beginning of this video. Dorsal vagal freeze and collapse, functional freeze and dorsal vagal collapse are often indicated by shame spirals. Okay. There's a perceived person judging you and you are hiding from us now. Okay. When what you could be doing is realizing that you want to take walks. You don't want to go to the gym, or you want to skate 3 times a week. There it is. I found it, right? You asking yourself questions because you haven't learned the internal work of trusting and coming up with a recovery methodology, an assessment methodology that is non-judgmental, that is mindful, that observes without judgment, and asks yourself questions. Ask yourself questions to get you to your result. Okay. Benita said, this is something I've been processing for a while. I really had to take off the cape. And Benita, let me tell you something. The cape is so default in many of us that we have to learn it because our immediate thought is all of the components of what the cape involves and entails. Okay. It's all the components. We immediately go there and we don't even realize that we're going there because we're surrounded by other Black women who are doing the same thing. And so we just think it's normal. And I just want to offer to you that's not normal. That's unhealthy. You've been trained. Okay. You out here doing flips and jumps every single time somebody tells you to perform. Who is it? The content creator, Erica De Niro TV, who says that Black women are trained to be the maid, the mule, or the mattress. You out here trained. Okay. What did Nicole say? Wait, we at the circus already? Yeah, you in a circus and you are out here performing tricks. Girl, I want you to get free. Open up that cage and get out of there. Okay. The next thing is the reason why you might have a plan and you're not implementing your plan is you have a fear of perceived failure. I talked about this before, but I'm going to say it again. The quickest shortcut to remove to heal, learn how to work with a fear of perceived failure is to start actively developing a healthier relationship with fear and perceived failure. Yeah. You might not even know that you get to do that. You do. Nothing is default. Everything is a choice. Okay. Let me tell you guys another quick story. I am deathly afraid of stingrays. Why? Because when I was a child, I took a swimming and snorkeling class at Lindbergh Bay in the Virgin Islands. And while I was under the water looking at fish on a little laminated placard with my snorkel under the water, it started getting super dark. And I was like, what is this, an eclipse? And when I looked up, a giant ray, stingray, manta ray, whatever, was going over me to the point that it was eclipsing the sun. Those things can be humongous. I don't know. Look it up. Anyway, I freaked out. I sucked water into my snorkel and I started to float up. And my snorkeling partner held me and kept me down so I didn't float up into the ray. And I have harbored a deathly afraid storyline of how afraid I am of these things for years. Yes, this probably happened 40 years ago at this point. Okay. Last year, I decided, oh, everything is a choice. I'm not going to be afraid of this anymore. I decided to recreate my relationship with fear. And I thought that the image of a manta ray or a stingray was the perfect image for me to adapt because I have been afraid of those things for years. Just seeing them on screen, in water, anywhere would activate my nervous system. I started exposure therapy on myself. Okay. I'm not telling you you have to do this. I'm just sharing with you what I've been doing because I wanted to break out of fears in general and remind myself I am capable of coming up, of bouncing back, and of recovering from anything that previously scared me. It's a choice. And part of what I did was I started getting things that have stingray imagery on them to remind me. I'm going to share a few of them with you now because it just happens that they're here right now. The first one was I bought this ring of these two stingrays and I started wearing it on my finger. When I started wearing this ring last year, I would literally put the ring on my finger and feel an anxiety response go up my body. Like my nervous system was like, we don't like them. We don't want to. But now I feel nothing. I'm so used to the ring. Okay. You guys can't see this, but on the screen behind me, my desktop, I have a giant screen. Okay. Like this wide. And there are two stingrays on it right now looking at me. Before that, I just changed them 2 weeks ago to this picture of these two, kind of because they look kind of cute in their face. Like I'm starting to like them. They kind of look cute. I like them. And the picture I had before, and they're facing me this time. They're coming toward me. Last year, the picture that I had chosen had 11 stingrays in it, but they were all like swimming away from me. And I would just be like, it was exposure therapy. It was me choosing to train myself to recreate my relationship with fear. I got this shirt yesterday because I ordered it. You can get it on Etsy. It's a custom shirt, but I you can put what you want it to say. And can you see that? It says ray of sunshine. I am surrounding myself with things that remind me that I get to choose the story that I experience when it comes to fear specifically, which is what this emblem is for me. And y'all can see I'm a pineapple girl. I like things that have emblems, okay? And specifically fear of failure. So in the same way that I can choose to reprogram myself and relearn and recreate my relationship with fear, I offer to you that you might not be doing your plan because you are afraid of perceived failure. And I'm specifically putting perceived in there so that you can have a point to get curious and ask yourself, why do I experience this as failure? In our example of the gym and going to the gym 3 times a week, you said you were going to go to the gym 3 times a week. It's the end of January. You haven't gone to the gym times a week. You could choose to be like, I'm a failure. It's a failure, 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 which is a valid choice. And it may be a choice that you got honest. Okay. It may be a choice that is reiterating what you were told. It may be a choice that Black excellence told you you should choose immediately. Okay. Because apparently Black women, we're supposed to be perfect out the gate. We don't get to do R&D. We don't get to do research and development like everybody else. Okay. We're supposed to be perfect. We're supposed to know how to do a thing without even asking, without even practicing, apparently. And that's, by the way, that's sarcasm. That's facetiousness. Okay. I'm saying we're trained for that, but that's wrong. That's unhealthy. Okay. So you're choosing to unlearn a lot of that stuff. Ask yourself why you experience not going to the gym 3 times a week as failure. And can I change what I experience it as? I would suggest to you that the shortcut to that answer is yes, you can change what you experience it as to data in your research and development about yourself. Data. You don't want to go to the gym. You don't want to go 3 times a week. Maybe you don't want to go to that gym. Maybe you prefer to walk. Maybe you prefer Zumba. Maybe you prefer skating. It's research and development. It's just data. It's not failure. The other reason why you might be creating a plan and not implementing it is you're afraid of success. It ain't even about whether you perceive failure. It's about, oh my God, what if I actually get the thing that I wrote down? And this goes into what I was saying earlier about the living in a living in reality versus not. And let me see if I could get this out. When you choose to live in a hypothetical fairy tale in your brain, like a dissociative hypothetical fairy tale, okay, where you can create magical plans, okay, you're a dragon, you can fly, there's all kind of non-accomplishable things, okay, you can't accomplish none of these plans, okay, but who cares? It's fun to make. Jay, it's not failure, it's data. Rachel Rogers said on a IG Live recently that someone told her that we individuals and even small businesses will count things as failure, that large corporations have entire departments and throw thousands, if not millions of dollars toward and call research and development. Black woman listening to me under the sound of my voice, if you woke up this morning, you always get to do some research and development. You don't have to know how to do it yet. If you don't know how to do it, ask somebody. If you don't know how to do it, Google it. If you don't know how to do it, find a book. Girl, find a podcast, look it up on YouTube. You don't have to be perfect. Whoever told you that you have to be perfect, they weren't perfect. So why are you listening to them? Perfect does not exist. Perfect, listen, you can get close to the goal that you want, but you're never going to be perfect. If what I'm saying right now is making your nervous system activate, then there is a signal to you that you have been programmed to think that perfection is the only way that you should move forward. And that is not a healthy thought process. So now you can ask yourself curiosity and figure out what your relationship with perceived failure is. And that's going to help you move forward. Because one of the things that you will notice is Black women who are crippled and stuck by the desire to be excellent are always very aware of the people who they perceive are not perfect, but are moving forward and implementing plans. You don't have to watch somebody who got it at 60% and they are actually executing the plan that you have in your mind and they are getting the result that you want. You don't have to watch them from the side wondering why you don't have it. You can just learn from them. It's good enough. It's good enough. The level at which we are told that we have to have things before we can do it, have it, execute it is not that realistic. It is a rare Black woman I found who was given a realistic concept of how she gets to show up in this westernized world. It's not failure, it's data. Use it, process it, ask a bunch of questions about it, tweak it, tweak the plan, go, move on. Okay. The next reason why you might not be implementing a plan that you created is you are afraid of change. Um, you like things to be this way, and you don't know what's going to happen if it goes that way. You know this space, you know what the outcomes are. Even if the outcomes are not what you want, you are comfortable in this devil that you know. You are comfortable thinking, okay, I'm here. So even though there's a conscious you that is making the plans and doing what you think you're supposed to be doing, telling people that's what you want to do. There's a subconscious, there's an unconscious you that likes it right where you are. And you won't let those two versions of you talk to each other, right? Um, and once again, integrated you are all of those yous. They all need to communicate with each other. It is perfectly fine for your conscious, executive, functioning version of you that wants positive outcomes and change to happen to have a conversation with the subconscious, potentially inner child version of you that likes it right here in this swill, in the bottom of the bucket, sitting in the muck and the mire. I'm comfortable right here. Why are you trying to move me? Also, human beings default to what is easiest and what is familiar. And so if you are defaulting to what is easiest and what is familiar, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just a regular human. Put down the judgment. Put down the all the judgments. There's so many judgments that we are taught to have. And think I am just a perfectly functioning person. Defaulting to what is easiest. When you want to things to change in your life, you will have to change. And change is not the easiest thing. Yeah. If you look at nature, it is easiest for it to just be what it is. Changing the thing is harder. There's energy that has to be exerted. There's change. It's difficult, right? There's breaking and healing and conceptualizing and new things, and it can be very exhausting. Acknowledge that. And that is true. So you are beating yourself up instead of just acknowledging that change comes with exertion, change comes with change. If you want something different, you're going to have to do something different, right? You make the plan, you're not implementing it because, acknowledge that. Bring those things up to the surface and let all of the versions of you have a conversation and decide what is actually going to happen moving forward. Okay. Next thing I wrote down is you might have a plan and you're not implementing it because you have unrealistic expectations. I kind of touched on this with the fairy tale, the not knowing how to actually create realistic plans that are doable, the inability to grasp time constraints, the inability to have realistic understandings of trade-offs. Like you're not going to start an Etsy store and become a baker and learn how to do crochet braids and move to Paris and become a Zumba instructor all in the same year. You could, but is that realistic? And if you're creating unrealistic plans for yourself, then you're setting yourself up for perceived failure from the jump. The plan should be a doable plan. I had a planning retreat participant last year, not this past go around, but the year before. And I think she had like 2 goals when she came into those accountability calls, 2 and a possible. And she told me flat out, "I'm not gonna do nothing more than these. So what I'm gonna do is just put these 2, put the pedal to the metal and work these 2 hot goals." And I was like, "I love that for you because that means that you know that the life that you're living can only accommodate realistically these 2 things." I am a mom of a son with special needs. Okay. There are so many things that I am interested in. I'm not telling you guys something I don't know and that I don't have to walk out in my own life. I'm always pulling myself out of the unrealistic to the realistic because my coping mechanism of choice was dissociating into the la la land that I'm describing. Okay. And I'm trying to tell y'all how to bring it down here to actionable, doable steps that bear fruit, that bear fruit. Yeah. As a mom of a son with special needs, I have a different time relationship with time than other people. And I have to know that. I realistically cannot get to many things that even parents of children who are typically developing can get to. That's just my life. That's literally just my world. It is what it is. And so you might have a plan and not be executing on it because you've created a plan that's literally not executable because it contains unrealistic expectations. You have to try, and if you don't know how to do this is going to feel uncomfortable because you're going to want to live in the la la land where you're a dragon and you can fly, okay, and you can accomplish 75 things in a year, and something about accomplishing 3 things in a year feels uncomfortable to you. But guess what? Accomplishing 0 is less than 3. So if you plan for 75 and every year you just beat yourself up about doing nothing, that is not a better outcome than planning for 3 and accomplishing 3. Just want to offer that to you, perfectionist Black women. Okay. The other reason why you might have a plan and you're not doing it is your plan is too complicated and your plan is too granular and you're getting stuck in the weeds of the details. Your plan should reflect what actually works for you. Let me say this because we're getting to the end of the video and I want to say this so that you guys can hear this. You might not be motivated because what you have on your plan is not motivating to you. It's actually not your priority. You wrote down something that you think you're supposed to write down because you're so trained by society to check the boxes that you are still writing down things that will get you social capital and you don't want it. Therefore, you are unmotivated to execute this plan because that is actually not your priority and you aren't motivated by it. Literally, you wrote down a plan of something you don't want. There's no motivation to execute a plan of something you don't want. This is something that I have to continually keep asking myself. When I do a micro assessment of a goal or a plan, tasks, steps that I am not executing on, one of the things that I ask myself is, do I actually want this? Or was I told I wanted this? And that's part of why one of the foundational elements of coaching with me is identity work because Black women often don't know who they are. And so answering the question of who am I is absolutely necessary in coming up with a plan that actually involves your priorities and that actually motivates you, or else you might just have a pretty plan so you can tell people you had a plan. And I told you, having a plan so you can tell people you had a plan is we off that. So many of us grew up getting our social capital from that kind of stuff. And we are still surrounded by women who get their social capital and get applause from other people by telling them about this business they starting and this that they're doing and this that I'm gonna start a YouTube channel. I'm gonna do it. One day I'm gonna do it. It's gonna happen one day. It's gonna happen one day. Jump off of that conveyor belt. You can actually have a life that includes the things that you want, not just a fairy tale story that you pass fairy tales back and forth between people who are living in their brains up here, but their lives have no fruit that indicate these things in their life. And they're always looking at the people who have the fruit and feeling some kind of complex emotion. You don't have to do that. Come down here, figure out who you are, figure out what your actual priorities are, figure out what you are actually motivated by. If it's too complicated, simplify it. Okay? If you don't want to go to the gym 3 times a week because the gym is too far away and you don't like walking to the gym or driving to the gym because there's too much traffic, change gyms or go for a walk. Simplify. Always simplify, especially if you are a person that felt like you got applause from coming up with complex and detailed plans. I experience so many women who are power planners. Okay. They are power planners. And in other spaces, they got applauded for that power planning. And I am a power planner, so I recognize you. But oftentimes, unless you have done some healing work, I realize that that power planning is a trauma response. And when I look at you, you have borne no fruit. You're just talking and not walking. Okay. And there should be talk, but that talk should also have walk attached to it. Okay. The other thing I wrote down is I talked about perfectionism. I also, the reason why you might have a plan and you're not implementing it is because you don't have any accountability system. Okay. My planning retreat has accountability calls. The planning retreat is not open anymore, so you can't get on those accountability calls. But if you are somebody who did the planning retreat with me, you avail yourself to the monthly calls because this is part of how you hold yourself accountable, especially if you have not done that in the past and you are a pretty plan maker, you're a power planner, and then you just put it down and sulk and beat yourself up just to wait until the next year where you can make another plan and hopefully get the dopamine. Okay. No, if you paid me to do the planning retreat, come to the monthly calls and have us help you because it's not just about checking off the task, although I am trying to move you down the field to create the life and the year that you said you want. I'm also going to stop for a second and ask these kind of questions because sometimes you're getting stuck and you're getting in your own way and you need an accountability system to help you. Okay. Like I said, Planner Retreat doesn't exist anymore. The membership exists. So if you're interested and you still need that kind of accountability, thepineapplegrounds.com. Yeah. The next reason why you might have a plan and you're not implementing it is you can't get past the first step. And often it's the start that stops most people. Momentum is easy to maintain, but starting from full stop can be challenging. Say it with me. How do you fix that? Acknowledge that starting from full stop is challenging. It is not a personal flaw on your part. It is just a truth of physics, okay? If a rock is rolling, it's easier for the rock to continue rolling. If a rock is full stopped, it's harder to get it because there's so much more force to get it to start. It has nothing to do with you. No need to judge yourself. Release the need to judge yourself. The world is going to judge you, Black woman. Don't participate in that. Talk to yourself nice. And if you don't do it, practice doing it. Train yourself to talk to yourself nice. There's no reason why the world should be saying harmful things to you and you should be participating in your own self-harm. Okay? So to get the momentum, ask questions. That's what I was going to say. How do I get momentum, Rushni, if I can't get past the first step? One, do you even want to do it? Ask yourself questions. Do I even want to do this? Why can't I get past this first step? Do I need help? Do I need an accountability system? Do I need a coach? Do I need to look at some YouTube videos? Is there information missing? Am I feeling fearful? To ask yourself questions based off of all the stuff I just told you and get yourself either past your first step, build the momentum, and then put a system in place to keep that momentum going that actually works for you. Or maybe that's not your first step. Maybe you need to bring it back and come up with a more simplified first step. It's all about asking these questions and becoming curious with yourself, as opposed to stopping and freezing and beating yourself up and imploding. Okay. Let's see. What else did I write down? I talked about this one already. Oh, you might not be implementing your plan because there are actual constraints like trade-offs, like time, but also like money, like finances, like funding, Okay, who's going to pay for this? Here's the thing, that is a valid reason to not implement something. I would offer to you potentially two things. One, come up with a solution, a, a solution that involves less funding. Maybe you have a pie in the sky version of it and you need to come down and start with a biscuit first. Okay, that'll get you to the pie in the sky. And or start asking yourself question and choose to, how can I come up with more funding? Right? So you might not be implementing your plan because you're like, "Ooh, that's going to be expensive." If you choose to remain with the expensive plan, the next step is, if you don't have the funding, how do you get the funding? Yes. If you choose to want the outcome, but you're like, I'm off the expensive, or I'm going to pause the expensive for later, then figure out how to get there in a way that costs less money. Ask more questions. You're not implementing you're not stuck. You can ask more questions, right? So, and then the last thing I wrote down is, you might be you might have made a plan and not be implementing your plan because you don't know what success actually feels like. Like, you don't have any clear metrics for if you did the thing. And you need those metrics. You're a person that needs that. And so it just feels kind of nebulous. And you're like, I don't know. And that is something that you can fix on the planning end. That is something that you can fix on. Well, first of all, do you even want to do it? That's the question. Listen, let me tell y'all something. I am a planner. I am one of the when you hear me talking about these things, a lot of times I'm describing myself. Okay. I'm describing myself a few notches back on the healing journey. And these things don't go away. I was just telling my coaching clients this on our membership call. It's not about waiting for things to go away before you move forward on your healing journey. A lot of the time, it's about acknowledging that it's not going to go away, that the journey will include it, but just not in the driver's seat. Okay. Two analogies. You're going to, instead of having it drive this thing for you, the fear, the lack of skills, the poor communication, the all of it, you learn how to get it out the driver's seat, then get it off your lap in the driver's seat, then put it in the passenger seat, then put it in the back seat, then put that sucker in the trunk. Okay, turn the volume down. Sometimes you don't ever get it out of your car. Sometimes you're not going to get rid of the feeling. You're going to have to act with the feeling in tandem. It's going to still be there. Another analogy that I've said a bunch of times and is one of my favorite analogies because it freed me up is, life is not about waiting for the waves to stop. Life is about learning how to surf. I spent my 20s and early 30s waiting for the waves of life to stop so that I could finally get into what I thought were promised calm waters. And surprise, surprise, the waves didn't stop. Matter of fact, as I kept living, like the old people say, the waves kept getting bigger. Life kept busting me upside my head. It dawned on me one day that it wasn't about waiting for these things to stop so I could collect this imaginary expectation life that I was told I was supposed to get from some like American dream, black excellence, something or other. Girl, I don't know. I don't know what they told me. Okay. And nobody was coming to hand me my prize for checking off boxes. And that was the day when I realized, oh, the waves aren't going to stop. I have to learn how to surf. And that was the day that I started my healing journey. That was the day when I got a surfboard. I stopped running into waves, busting my head. That was the day when I got a cute surfboard. That was the day when I got wax for my surfboard. That was the day when I realized that surfboard wasn't the one I wanted. I wanted a different one. And I got a cute wetsuit and then I got a different wetsuit. And I realized how that was the day that I started to learn how to ride these bitches. So so maybe, and I'm still on that journey. And where I am in that journey is my my dissenting voices and the things that stop me from implementing plans are tied up in the trunk, and the volume is down real low for some of them. And in the analogy of the waves, I run headfirst into the waves because guess what? Surfers like waves. I'm not waiting for the waves to stop anymore. I understand that if I want to create the life that I desire, these things come with it. And so part of why you might not be implementing the plan that you have is because your idea of what's happening and your idea of what is marked as success needs to shift. For me, success is realizing I can surf. Success is not a calm sea. And if you're waiting for the waves to stop, that might be why you are not implementing your plan because you don't understand that success is being able to ride this thing. Success is being able to be curious. Success is being able to not judge yourself. Success is being able to trust yourself to recover if perceived failure occurs. Success is being able to be loving and kind to yourself. Success is being able to tweak a plan. Success is being able to drop something because you realize that the only reason you were doing it is because you were programmed to do it by a system and to not judge yourself and move on. You change your metrics for success and you start actually moving forward. Success is realizing that nobody can judge you as harshly as you judge yourself. And so when you start learning how to stop judging yourself so much, what other people say becomes inconsequential. And I'm telling you that as a lived witness. When I started realizing that my worst judge was me, and I started learning how to talk to me kindly and how to affirm myself, talk to myself, fill myself up with what was necessary for me to create what I wanted moving forward. I learned that I could handle anything. And then dissenting voices from the outside that used to scare me became so inconsequential that I was like, girl, what? What? But listen, that might just be because I'm almost 50. Anyway, hopefully, this video is helpful to you. If it is, let me know by hitting the like button on whatever platform you are on and sharing it somewhere so that another Black or West Indian woman who feels like she's stuck and might be beating herself up can potentially be helped with today's reality check. Okay. If you would like to work with me as your coach, thepineapplecrowns.com. The only thing that's out there right now is you can join the membership. Okay. The members have monthly coaching calls with me that I've referenced in this call. There are one-off courses they have available, journal prompts, reading lists. There's all kinds of good stuff for Black and West Indian women on a healing journey, and specifically a safe place with like-minded people, especially in this political climate, which we all need. Okay. Find your support systems, whether it's with me or elsewhere, Black woman, and take care of yourself. Okay. That's what I have. Link is at the top of the information box, and I will see you guys next time. Be well, be encouraged. Okay. Here's a pineapple and a few stingrays. Bye, y'all.